Recently, I had a comment that was posted on one of my YouTube videos that it was kind of disappointed that I didn't do more videos. And the real reason is I really haven't had time. I probably will get back to them soon, but right now, uh, I've got other things in my life that uh, I'm more interested in. But I did come across the fact that I had made a lot of Facebook Live videos, and there was a lot of good information in them that some of it wasn't in the videos that I had currently listed. So what I decided to do was list these to my YouTube channel. And I hope you enjoy them. I hope you find more knowledge in them. And also, if you're not a subscriber, well, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you'll be notified. You select all. And if you like them, give them a big thumbs up. I hope you enjoy. Okay, we'll get started. For those of you that's tuned in, I'll try to keep up with things. It's switching from camera to camera and everything, and all the other things that happen during live feeds. But what we're going to talk today about are different types of trim options, making some of your own trim, looking at the difference between trims, and such as that. Let me find my water before I start. Okay. We'll go back to this other camera, and I hope it starts doing a little better on not being so fuzzy. Hope it gets a clearer picture. Now, what I've got here, and it might take a while to keep up with you because I'm trying to make sure things kind of look right. But anyway, what we have here, we have the piece that we did last week. Now I used this ball trim on here, and to accent this one, and that's just one option. I showed how to put it together. Now on some of the other trim, there's a little bit more of a technique on some of it that you need to play with. Now I did add on this one, I added a little loop on the end of it because the type of bell I'm going to use, I just soldered a jump ring on, and the bell I'm going to use, which is the one that's laying right here, is a simple bell to make. It's real easy to make, and it ought to work well on this one. Okay. I hope we've got enough internet to where things flows easy. I see it's kind of jumping, and being I'm out in the country, we have to suffer through. Okay, there are endless trim options that you have. You can go with a bead and a rope pattern wire, or you can make your little sterling silver beads out of your scrap, or out of casting beads. You can when you put your trim on, you have other trim options. I added a hornet toad on this one, but and that's an option. I put the rope at a greater distance around. I didn't just trim up tight. You can, and the reason why I'm showing all these is not just to show off some of my work, but to show those that are wondering how you get design ideas, and the easiest way. Now this looks like a ball trim, but this is actually, it is a ball trim, but it's only like a half round. It's not a complete ball. And for some designs you might want that. If you're using a real short bezel and you don't want
your balls be up there and solder to the side of your bezel and keep you from being able to form it on your cab, you might decide to go with something like that. But that's another option. This here is, I wouldn't say it's so much trim or not. This is are pieces of scrap that were actually cut out around a piece, and then they were just overlaid on the base plate, and so it gives you a different look. But as far as design ideas, that's another way to go. And then, of course, my famous torso cab. You know, there's leaves. Leaves are always a trim option. Now that's the only extra piece of trim. But I want to show you the bail, because this is a glue-on bail. And glue-on bails will work fine for solder bails if that's what you want. If that's one of your design features you want in there, because they do have some nice options. Here, this is another glue-on bail, but it's a nice little heart. So if you can't really come up with an idea and you want something that's easy to, so you can attach and that might fit your design, this is another option. Just some of the glue-on bails, and they actually have bails that are just shaped like this and come together, and they don't have all this other attachment, so you can solder them directly onto it. Now I'm sure everyone doesn't have horn toads, but these are things that you can cast. As far as these are some that I casted. I thought I might like these as a design feature, but if you get into casting, which is, you know, I would say that's another branch of silversmithing. You can make almost anything as long as you have a pattern for it. Some other options here would be some little stamped out appliques, if I can pick it up off my workbench here, but it's just a little flower, you know. These are they're easy to melt because it's not like it's a big thick piece. It takes a little bit more heat control in order to put this on. I'm guessing it's probably maybe 28 gauge, so it's pretty thin. It could be 26, but I think it's probably 28 gauge or something like that. It's definitely not very thick. Now you have other options, which a lot of them use. This is kind of a larger leaf, but you have leaves that you can add to give design functions. And you go into pattern wire. It's the options, I wouldn't say they're endless, but they kind of seem like they're almost endless. Like this one here, this would make a nice border as far as it's just leaves, but it could be attached and it could be looped all the way around and brought in. This is as far as an option. Normally I don't try to teach design, because design is such a wide area as far as for keeping up with all the options that's there. You have access to a lot of different pattern wires. Now there's a lot of suppliers. Most of mine might use Cool Tools, but most of it comes from Rio Grande. Now this is bead wire, but you notice bead wire and the effect is different depending on which side of bead wire you use, because this small one, which I believe is 14 gauge, it could be, well, that's probably 16 gauge, but this larger one is 12 gauge, and you can see the difference the impact would make just changing sizes. I mean, it's the same pattern, it's just a lot larger. Now rope wire it's the same way. as far as you have it in different sizes. Now the rope wire is all right. I mean, and I use it a lot, but it's not, the effect isn't as spectacular than using twisted wire that you do yourself. And now it's kind of hard to show this on that camera, so I'm going to switch around to the other here. And I don't know if my feed is working good, because I don't have it's not showing any comments at all. I occasionally see a heart, but I don't see a comment come up. So if anybody's commenting, like I say, I can't see it. And I don't know if I'm having a problem. I notice it gets a little jerky because there's not quite enough bandwidth for the internet. I'm going to open another page and see if I can actually see comments going that way. So if it gets jerky and tries to cut out, well, just bear with me. Okay, I do see comments. All right, okay, and it is working, okay. That's good. Now, okay, I think I maybe, okay, now I have comments, but I can't actually see the feed from my computer, so like I say, bear with technical difficulties. It seems like maybe the voice goes through normally, but I don't know why I'm not seeing my feed. Okay, now I'm seeing it. Okay, we're going to talk about making pattern wire. Now, when we make pattern wire, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth, so if I miss you, because I've got to see that I've got you in the right place. What I've got here is, I've got two 20 gauge wires. Now you could use, and this is fine silver, you could use sterling, or you could use a larger wire. 16 gauge makes a nice bold statement, but what I've done is cut me two pieces, and I've put one in a pair of vice grips. You can put one end in a vice, and you need to hold the other end good, so I would recommend vice grips. Now I have this nice little neat tool. This is what people that put down concrete use to tie the rebar in it. But what's so nice about it is I can grab this end and I pull, and it does so many turns on it. Well, I can take and run this back down, and I can turn it again. Now you could fasten one end in a drill, and you could turn a drill. You know, you might take some of the fun out of it, but that's another option. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this, and you want to kind of hold the tension on it. You don't want to leave it slack when you're twisting. Now when I do this, it's pulling a little tension as it goes. But what I'm doing is I'm going to twist this, and if you're making a piece for just a certain pendant or something, you don't want to make a bunch of it, then you'd want to measure a little extra, because when you put all these twists in here, each time you do this, it gets a little bit shorter, so you're going to lose some of the length on it. But as you can see, it's the way you might can see it's twisting. I'll get under the other webcam here in a minute. And I should have used a drill. It'd be much faster, but this way I can take up extra time, make me feel like I'm actually doing something. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep twisting this until I get it to a point to where I think it's where I want it. Now, as you're twisting this, you're work hardening it. So the more twist you put in here, it's going to get harder. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to anneal this. Now, okay, this is looking pretty good. I might go one more time. Just put just a little tighter twist in it. If you twist too much now, your piece is going to break. Because like I say, you're work hardening it. Now what I'll do, I'll just release it from my tool here. Now you're going to lose a little bit on the end, and you're going to lose some length in it. If this is something you're going to do regular, then what you'll want to do is take and measure how long it is you start with when you put however many twists you normally put in it, and that way you'll know how much you lose, how much you have to have, and then when you're making a piece for just a specific job, you'll be able to do it. We're going to swap cameras again, and we're going to see if it'll focus on it. But as you can see, now I'm going to put the other patterned wire over here. Well, yeah, that is what I'm looking for. This is the twisted wire that you'll buy right here, and this is what we just made. And as you can see, you have a lot bolder statement with the wire that you make. Now, what you would do with this now is you would anneal this. Now, annealing is a process, for those of you that's new to silversmithing, that softens the metal. Now, different metals react differently, and so, but silver and copper, to anneal them, you heat them up. You would heat this to a light brick red, and then you would quench it in water. And when you heat this and you quench it in water, it brings it back to dead soft, so it would be easy to form. Right now this would be pretty stiff. You could probably form it, but it'd be pretty stiff. Now, if you're going to use this for trim, now some of you might want to solder it first, you know, lay solder down and walk it down and make it to where it stays together. Normally there's not a problem with using it without soldering it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the end of this off. I'm going to cut a little bit of extra off because, but when you would file this in straight, and you'd have to be pretty easy with it. You could sand it or file it, but you wouldn't want to untwist it. When you're forming this around your piece, when you put this around and you form it and you bring it together, now a lot of times the joint is real easy to see, but the trick is that once it comes around and it meets itself, and I'm going to try to bend this around. Well, it's kind of stiff, but I'm going to try to bend this in a curve. I'll just use something here to do it. I don't really want to break it, but I want to demonstrate this, and it's not going to want to stay curved because, like I say, this is hard right now. It's not soft, so when it's soft, it wants to keep its form. When it's hard, it won't. Well, when it's soft, it wants to keep the form that you're putting it in. When it's hard, it wants to keep the form that it was in, so it's going to want to spring back more. And we're going to clip this other end off so we can bring these together. but when we bring these together, once we form it and we get it to size, and we want to line these ends up to where it looks like the wire is continuous, because you want to get rid of that joint. And the way you would do that is, all you'd have to do is take a pair of your nylon insulated pliers, and you would twist this in. Now make sure you twist it the direction it's twisted in order to line it up, but you would just twist this in and make it where it looks like it comes right in. Then you're not going to see that joint. You don't have to worry about it showing up. And maybe I can give you an example here. On this piece here, now this is pattern wire. It's not twisted like that, but it's the same thing. You can't see where the joint is around the piece. And that's because of that simple technique. All you have to do is twist that and make that line up. Let's see, I'm going to check messages here, just the comments for a minute. Okay. Yeah, it makes me feel better. I look good. Okay, we'll get back to this. But anyway, that's the trick on pattern wire, on using the twisted wire, is making that twist come in. Now on some it might not be possible. On when you're doing a heart, you have this that comes in. You'll do your best to make these two come together. The larger the pattern, the more it's going to stick out. So you need to be aware that you need to try to fix that. Now the other thing is, I'm going to show you a different heart, because hearts are they have this one problem area right here at the top. But what you want to try to do is, it's just like this bead wire where it comes in here. You don't want half of beads and stuff. You want it to look like it was actually cast on there, I guess you might say. And a lot of times people will wonder if you made it or if it was manufactured because of that fact. And you can do a certain amount of stretching on any of this once you make it dead soft. And if you have to cut a bead because it's not going to be quite long enough, when it's dead soft you can form it and cause this to fit on there tight. But you want it to fit tight. You don't want a gap, because any gap along this side is going to show. It's going to show. So you want it to lay down there flat, and that's the most important thing. It's better if it's too tight and you have to deal with it and get it stretched out a little bit than to have it loose. Okay, let's see. Now as far as, like I said, we could go on and on about the different types of pattern wire, but basically I just wanted to kind of give you an idea and a few tips on how it might be, how you might improve what you're working on. You know, some of you that's already started and you're kind of beginners and you have a problem. Now if you want more information on soldering and stuff, just go to my YouTube channel. You know, there's some videos in the group that's in the files. They're all in the files, or you can go directly to the channel in case I put one up and forget to get it over to the group. Sometimes we get busy, but I tried to do enough basic ones, and I'm trying to do a few to maybe make it easier so you don't have to have as many supplies to make what you want. You know, it's simple if you just have to have wire, and you can make your twisted pattern wire, and it's easy enough. I mean, there's not any complicated thing to it. You don't have to keep in stock a bunch of different ones or something like that. Maybe you do wire wrapping and you already use 20 gauge wire for some of your wraps, you know, and you can just use that same thing in your silversmithing. And what I want to, I guess I didn't show the other wire. I had talked about the half bead wire, and that's an option. Like I say, this one here, this one it's just flat. I mean, it's looks like beads when it's laid down, but it's flat. Now these sometimes can be a little bit trickier to get laid down, but always remember, is when your solder's hot, keep your solder pick in your hand, and as you're laying this down, while it's hot, just put your pick there and push down on it in that area. As long as your solder's not hot everywhere, it's not going to pop it up somewhere else. It'll push it down. And if it doesn't lay down after you pickle it and you see that it's has some gaps in it, just go back and resolder it. Just take and heat it up, you know, flux it up again and heat it up. And if it looks like it needed some more solder, we'll add a piece of solder in there where you think it might need it. But But like I say, there's so many options, and sometimes you need certain options because you're dealing with certain types of heights on your bezels, and you're looking for a certain design. Be aware that it's there. It's there's a whole lot different level on how something looks. You can see where I use this here is the rope trim, but the small bead trim would be the same. But this one has the same height on the bezel, but you can see how much higher the bezel extends because I use this half trim. So it affects the difference in your design. So you just have to be aware of that. Okay. We're going to, let me see. Okay. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. And like I said at the very beginning, for those of you that might have tuned in just a little bit late, if there's something that you want to see in one of these live streams, regardless if it's me doing it or someone else, comment in there, because sometimes we miss things during the video and we can go back and do them later. Now this was a piece I did last week, and I put the little bead trim around it. Got it all soldered up. Well, I went ahead and I put a jump ring here, just soldered a jump ring to the back, because we were talking about bails. Now there's so many different types of bails. And I think somewhere here I got what would be a common bail to make. I'm not going to go too much into making bails because the time constraint, and I'm kind of, I get pretty particular. But this here, and I don't know why my camera just doesn't want to focus good, but this is double half round wire. And try to go up. I try to get it close, but it just wants to be cantankerous. Anyway, what we usually do with this, if we're going to make a bail, now this one has a larger piece of double half round, but all we do with this is we take this and we make a loop. We'll file this in at about a 45, and we'll roll this around until it touches this other piece, and then we'll clip it off and we'll file a little taper on here, that way there's not anything to snag. And then we take a saw and we saw down the middle of there. Then once you saw down the middle, and I think I've got a tool here somewhere, let me slip over just a minute. Now this is an expensive tool, so you take an old steak knife, run the edge on a sharpening block so it's dull, and I just cut it off and grind off part of the end. But what use this is a spreader tool. You can buy these, but I don't know why you'd buy them. You probably got a steak knife that you really don't want. And what you do is, once you saw that groove, you would slide this down in here and you just twist it from one side to the other and spread this until you have the width you want. Now I prefer, I made this one with a bigger one, but I really prefer the smaller double half round. But you, like any other stuff, you can get it in different sizes, and you'll have to decide on as your designs go along what you're going to use. But then whenever you go to put this on, and I probably should have got one for this so I could kind of demo this. But what you're going to do is, once you have this formed like you want it, and you don't actually have to even spread this until you put it on your piece, but whenever you put this on, what you're going to do is this little end right here, you're going to put a piece of easy solder right here on, let me get my pick. We're going to put it right here in the center down on that little extension where it's going to be the side that's going to touch your back plate. And now you'll see that on the video, but what we do is we just heat that enough to tin it to it. We don't flow it all the way out. We just make it to where it actually flows a little bit, so we know it's actually bonded to this piece. And then whenever we get ready to put this on our pendant, we can just lay this here, and we can put a T-pin under the back side, and what that does is support it so the weight's all set on each end. And then you'll just heat it up from this side, and that solder will flow to this side. Now I'm not going to tell you to flux it, because you should know that anytime you're soldering, you've got to flux it. Anytime you use your torch on something, flux it. And I'm going to show you something on this piece. Now, I had to sand the back flat. Whenever I made this last time, and you know, you get to paying attention to videos, not paying attention a lot. But if you can see, and I don't know how well you can see because how well the focus is, but on here there's little bumps. And what this is the metal started to reticulate. And what causes that is when you hold the metal at a high enough heat for a period of time, longer than you need to, when you start getting it to where you're holding a little too hot and for too long, it causes this. Now, some people do this as a design feature. They'll reticulate their metal so they have a certain pattern to it. Or you'll buy reticulated metal. But understand that that's what will happen, because what happens, the silver crystals start to grow, and yes, they are crystals, but they'll start to grow and they start getting longer, and that's what causes this in here. So be aware. You want to heat everything up fast enough, but you don't want to get it too hot, because you're going to end up with that problem. Okay, for this piece, I've decided to make a bell. Now this bell was just out of, if you'd seen this one soldered, and I don't know, it's probably in the video or something, but it had an extra piece on it that I trimmed off, and you just make this out of that one. Now what you do is you'd kind of shape it, and it's not much to shaping the piece, you know, do some trimming, and then I did a little stamping on it to give it a little bit more character, so it wasn't plain. And then I drilled a hole through the back side. Just drilled a hole through here, and I took a piece of 16 gauge fine silver and soldered it to the front edge, to the back of the front edge. Now what I'll do with this, I can just take this and I can open it up, and I can put this through this loop. Well, I might better open it up just a hair more. I can put this through this loop, and then I'll close it right back on here. And I slide this through, and I'll slide it through however far it is that I want this to be as far as my design. I might slide it down there close. I could leave it up just a little bit more than that. But then what I'll do, I can just take this. I can hold this in my third hand, take and flux this up, and I'm going to flux this area around here because I'll probably be putting heat there. But anywhere I'm going to put heat, I'm going to flux. And I'll just put a little piece of easy solder there so it doesn't take a lot to melt it loose. And I'll solder that, then I'll clip this pin off and file this straight. Now this one could have used a little bit more work. Now this pin actually went all the way through, and you can still see where the pin is, but believe me, if and this was like probably the third piece I made, but if you took the extra time to sand it a little bit more, you wouldn't even know that the pin was in there. I mean, you'd see it, but you wouldn't even know that it's in there. But that's the articulating bail. I know a lot of you use those anyway, and they do look nice. And that's how you make them. They're real simple to make. You can either put your jump ring there, or as in this piece, the design, it was just left extra metal and drilled directly through the back plate. Okay, let's see, any more comments? We need to do anything. I don't see anything there right at the moment. Okay, but yeah, that's that piece, and what we can do here is I'm going to take this and I'm going to straighten this pin a little bit. I don't quite like the way it's laying. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring this over, see if we can't get a little adjustment there. First, I'm going to flux this up. Like I say, I want to make sure that I flux the back plate. I mean, it's not, flux is cheap, and it sure does save a lot of work if you don't have extra fire scale to clean up. Now, we'll take a third hand, and we'll have to find one, because I have this bad habit of putting things where they don't belong, and so it takes a little bit of time to find out where they are. Now doesn't particularly any particular way. Now this third hand, when you have your flux there, it's going to make it stick to your third hand. Now I'm going to put this third hand back there, and I'm going to twist this around so that I kind of get it to where it's holding my piece straighter. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a piece of easy solder. For technical term, let's say a snippet, but your snippets can be, different lengths. It doesn't take a whole lot of solder. I'm probably going to use a little more, but I'd rather clean up a little than have it show up. Now, what we'll do is, and I'm going to flux just a little bit more. I have to say, I'd rather be safe than sorry to have to. I don't want to clean up a bunch of extra stuff, a bunch of extra fire scale. I leave that for those of you that like to. We're just going to place that right up there. And we're going to heat that up. We're going to have to make sure that we heat this whole bell up. Now, when I soldered that pin, I used hard solder, being that was the only operation. That was the first operation on there. So unless we really get bad with heat, we won't have a problem. But when I soldered this jump ring on here, I used easy solder. So let's hope that I have good enough heat control that I don't unsolder my jump ring. Okay, it's starting to clear up. Remember, when it starts clearing up, it's getting close to time. Well, my solder's going the wrong way because I'm so worried about that jump ring. Remember, the direction, okay, the direction that your heat is going, the direction that you're applying it, that's where your solder's going to go. So remember that. And if you want it to go in a certain place, then apply your heat that way. Now, if you're using a third hand, I'm going to put this in the, we'll quench it down, and we're going to throw it in the pickle. Let that work. If you're using a third hand, now this third hand is hot. Now, on my third hand, I have it has wood on the side, so I can still pinch it. But a lot of third hands are just strictly metal. Don't grab that third hand to release that with your fingers. Take and get you some pliers or something to squeeze that with, because, like I say, the most important thing is in doing this is not injuring yourself, and that's a quick and easy way to injure yourself. Okay, let's see. Yes, definitely it could, you could ball your pin up on the front. That'd be a good design element to do on one. There are so many things that you can do, and a lot of it's heat control. But it's a lot of it is you take time and you work out your design before you start. Just don't say I want to make something and you don't have a design in mind to make it, because and if you don't have a design in mind, you don't know what you're going to turn out. I know a lot of people, you buy cabs or you make cabs, and whenever you make these cabs, you come up with a design idea. You can see something here, and so you build off it. But don't just say, well, okay, I'm going to put a bezel on it and I'm going to go this way, because as far as bezels go too, there are so many different designs. Some go with it. I've got one type of bezel that I purchased because it was cheap, and I think it would work on some things, but it can only work on certain things because the way that the bezel is designed, and you need to understand this. The other thing is, and we can go back to bales here. I've got a piece somewhere here if I find it. I'm really organized, so as you can tell. No, I tried to move everything out here. Of course, my workbench is a comfortable size for working, but it's not really the best for doing a live feed to get things spread out. Let me find the other piece I had. Okay, what I have is I have a piece of pattern wire, and we'll switch over to the other one. Now this piece of pattern wire here, and I don't know if you can really even see it. Maybe it'll focus in on it. But this is really it's designed for more of a light ring shank type. I think it would look like it's, and that was the purpose I bought it for. But it can make a nice bell. I made a bell on one piece. It's simple, just roll the loop just like on with the other, and solder it to the back, and you've got your design already incorporated into it. And then when I put patina on it and then polish up the top, then you have this dimension there where it gives it depth from the black setting inside the groove. So you do that the same way with the ropes or the beads or whichever way you can do. Patina is a good way to take and accent a piece, as far as you can totally change the way it looks. And of course, I know you've seen that in some designs. And what we'll try to do maybe I don't know, maybe I'll do a YouTube or we'll try to do it in the next live feed. We'll do a showing patina and using silver black, which silver black is hydrochloric acid, and hydrochloric acid is one of your stronger acids. As soon as you put it on there, it's not like when you can use liver of sulfur, which this pennant here is liver of sulfur, and it gives it a little bit of darkness. Now, but this one here is silver black, and as far as the difference, you know, that's pretty dark. This one here, it's a little bit dark, so you can see the difference between hydrochloric acid and liver of sulfur. It's a total different effect, and it's easy enough. It's easy enough to do like these, where you do the background, because you can apply it with a brush, and then you can come in here. Let's switch back over. You can apply it with a brush in your areas that you want it for your design, and then you can come back and you can polish off the top of it. Same way. Now this has that same trim that was like I say, I think was for a ring, but it makes an okay bell trim, and it might have even looked a little better if I'd have taken in and hit this part too. And then you just polish it off. If it gets on other places where you don't want it, polish it off, and it looks like maybe I missed just a hair there. But like I say, it makes a whole lot darker patina. And like I say, it's because it's stronger. You would have to leave it in for I don't know how long in liver of sulfur, and it's really hard to do stuff like this because you have a whole lot more cleanup work cleaning it off if you patina it to that part. But it's real easy with a good you know, paintbrush that you pick up at one of the hobby stores. But maybe I'll do that. The only problem is you need a well ventilated area for it because of the fumes, and whenever you're working in an area, and you know, it's one thing for me to exhaust out the fumes from my pickle. It's another thing when you start getting stronger fumes in there from like hydrochloric acid. And maybe I'll do a YouTube video because I'm planning to I'll patina this piece here. I'll probably polish up the beads in the top of the bezel wire, and I'll try to leave this side mostly black. Might do up the edge and try to do the detail in the bell to bring it out. And even your lettering on the back, if you put it there, it's not that hard to polish it off. If you're just polishing to polish that back off. And usually what I do now, if I'm going to put a patina on one, what I would do is I would completely finish my piece. As far as I'm not going to set the stone, because hydrochloric acid would definitely eat the stone. Now this one, like I say, this pin will have to be cleaned up here, and I didn't even get a solder on that joint, so I'll have to go back and do that. Like I say, the main thing is to make sure that your heat is in the right place, and I was so worried about the jump ring coming loose that I didn't solder the joint, and that can happen. It's not uncommon. That's one nice thing about YouTube videos too, because when you make that mistake, nobody ever knows, because you go back and you redo it, and you don't add that part. You just edit that off. But you would go ahead and polish this whole piece. And I don't say so much polish it like your finished polish, but what I'll do a lot of times, I use a little buffer with 4-inch wheels, and I have some 3M diamond flex pads that I use, and they'll get all in these grooves and stuff, and I'll take this up to 1 micron shine, and then after I get all that done, I throw it off in the tumbler, and then once it's tumbled, it would be a finished piece ready to just do the final polish. And when it's at that point, that's when you would patina it, because you have everything nice and smooth. You're just ready to polish, and what you do is you just polish off the patina in the areas that you want nice and bright, and then leave it in the other areas. I mean, you could leave your whole bell black if you wanted. It's just like I say, that's design. It's that would totally be up to the person that's creating the piece. Okay, let's see. Hydrochloric acid is you can buy it. Rio Grande has it. Like I say, it's still the trade name, or the way they sell it is Silver Black. That's hydrochloric acid. And anytime you're working with this, I recommend at least safety glasses. It's really better if you wear a shield, because if for some reason it splashes on you. Whenever I do this, I work over I use a plastic container lid, off of one of these storage containers, so I have something that it's not going to eat through. And even when I store my Silver Black, because it is a strong acid, I store it in a little cannon jar. Just set it down in there. That way, if for some reason the plastic bottle that it comes in decides to get a leak in it or something, that it will be contained in the glass. And I always wear latex or nitrile gloves, because you do not want that on your hand. And when you're working with it, you're gonna take and deactivate it or neutralize the acid afterwards with baking soda. And if you want to know how strong it is, dip your brush in it, and then dip the brush in the baking soda, because it doesn't react like liver of sulfur when you neutralize it. It actually it starts to boil the water. It is a really strong acid, but it's really great to use. Don't be afraid of it. But all I stress is just be careful with it. It's like anything we do. Our torch can hurt us. Any of our buffing equipment with the blades, they can hurt you, or they can grab something. Just use caution anytime you're